whenever you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Kathie Juveniles. My research was based on the question of how risk factors are considered in treatment options on why young adults commit misdemeanors. To introduce my topic, there first has to be a clear understanding of the definition of who exactly is considered a troubled young adult and what a misdemeanor is. A misdemeanor is a type of offense punishable under criminal law. Acts of misdemeanors that are most commonly committed that are associated with young adults are petty theft, vandalism, possession of unlawful substances, trespassing, or intoxication. A young adult who has struggles in their personal life and has overcoming can lead to these unhealthy decisions. Therefore, guardians seek help from various treatments to help their young adults instead of figuring out the way of their behavior. Their objective is not to find the risk factors that can contribute to their behavior and have a way of preventing this. What this study will add will be a research done on the framework and their acknowledgement of risk factors that should be considered in these prevention programs, and the different treatment options that they will provide. There will be interviews conducted for different activities they will use to help a troubled young adult, and research secondary sources from program websites. The various activities that are done will be analyzed and compared to other methods that are used to help young adults in developing coping mechanisms and find the therapy that they specifically need. My intrigue in the study of criminology and law allowed me to choose my research. In the future, I hope to have a degree in this major. By researching, I will be able to gather information on laws and offenses to extend my knowledge for the future, and in the surrounding environment that I am currently in has played a role in my age group of choice, which is 13 to 18 years of age. I decided to have a clear understanding of why they may commit these actions. Questions arose as I talked to friends who have been considered troubled, and I wanted to develop a clear understanding of young people who are affected by these circumstances, at home, in society, socially, and psychologically, and how these different factors can affect their decisions in a life of crime. It's important to understand how young adults' mindsets work, to build connections that can allow young people to open up about situations in their lives that can partially lead to acting out. As I'm surrounded by these environments, my intrigue grew into a reason to extend research on younger adults and to dive deeper into these risk factors that can be prevented and to find out exactly what solutions are truly beneficial to the individual. Adding on to this idea of building connection, this quote from the author of various young adult novels, Lauren Oliver, said this quote from her personal experience as a young adult who was troubled, that said, "I was a troubled teen and I was constantly looking for a rope. These ropes are connections that allow us to see that life exists beyond the little worlds that we are currently a part of." This quote shows a reflection of how impactful these connections are for these young adults to have. Young adulthood is a critical moment in the formation of relationships that can have implications for their life course and many consequences for their mental and physical well-being. Furthermore, my theory is that if there is more information on risk factors, there will be more efficient methods and programs for helping a young adult in the hopes of finding ways of prevention and improvement. Also, by analyzing the patterns and trends, there can be more efficient methods of therapy provided to narrow down the most efficient results. The objective of the research is to have a clear breakdown of the framework of programs and have accessible and efficient treatment options for loved ones of the individual to feel confident and comfortable in their decision for their child to become better. Now, to start off, we will look at the variety of risk factors that should be considered, such as addictive behaviors. These include addictive behaviors such as drug or alcohol use or any other unhealthy amount of time-consuming activity. Their emotional stability, such as their impulses and emotional control in situations. Their defiance of the law or loved ones, a sense of questioning of authority in their lives in which they should have no fundamental rules to tie them down. The surroundings of their friends and family can be bad influences in which feel peer pressure, peer pressure to do many things they may not want to do. A dysfunctional home can be a toxic and overwhelming environment in which they can feel trapped, which can lead to the use of other methods to get their minds off of family issues at home. Allowing these risk factors will allow for there to be prevention in a young adult. Now, prevention programs issues include how accessible their programs are. The affordability of these programs is also questioned by parents. As to their suitability for their young adults, their loved ones want their young adults to feel comfortable in the place where they will get help. These questions are all put into consideration by the young adult's parents. By utilizing qualitative research, I needed to conduct research based on emotional and social factors. So for this to happen, I needed to have an interpretation-based research, in which I could only gather from a qualitative perspective. It's necessary to understand the societal views on troubled youth, to come to an understanding on how this may seem to young adults in society who feel judged by society's stereotypes of them, being irresponsible and acting out for attention. This may keep a young adult from seeking help, as they may seem too far from being helped in society's eyes. Parents can also use techniques of negative comments, allowing for the entry of negative feelings as they feel neglected by their own family. The procedure that was conducted was a gathering of research from program websites and articles on troubled youth, as an interview of a member of a program for troubled youth was a counselor who gave me information on my topic. The participant was a counselor from an education prevention program activity specialist, who provided answers to my questions on her experiences in the program and her definition of troubled youth and terms that needed clarification. She gave me an explicit overview of misdemeanors. Here are some examples of programs for young adults, such as wilderness camps that promises to provide benefits of support that combines individual and group therapy sessions with outdoor activities that focus on trust building, teamwork, and communication. Another program is with Sergeant Scott, whose goal is to interview and reclaim these 16 to 18-year-olds dropout lives. Although sometimes judged, people like him are determined to prove something about young adults. People often are told Sergeant Scott that he works with bad kids, with his answer being no, that these are just kids that deserve a second chance. Contributing factors that lead youth to bad decisions can be their social, economic status, racial disparity, lack of support, lack of healthy coping skills, substance abuse, discouraging feelings of hopelessness, and lack of resources. The early signs of a young adult who may act out can be isolation, anger, defiant behavior, destructive impulses, self-harm, and depression. The prevention program's goals are to provide treatment and mentoring for young adults. For example, the Randolph County Juvenile Center's goal is to help at-risk youth to become educated in risk/violent behavior while learning skills and tools to promote positive behavior changes to become successful individuals in the future. I compared and contrasted the differences and similarities for the analysis of how these programs work to provide the right treatment for young adults to have the most individual process for them to improve. I broke down the experiences that they have had based on the review of treatment options and how their experiences were. The goals of different programs and their mission statements are important for stability for young adults, loved ones to know if their child is in the right place. Also, how are the employees or volunteers in these programs good role models that can relate to these young adults? Questions like these can have a guardian feeling unsure about how they can help their young teens. The gathering of the research was collected from secondhand experience. I could not have access to conducting interviews to have permission to conduct one-on-one interviews with a juvenile in a facility. due to privacy policies put into place to protect an individual's personal rights. This outcome was why I had to talk to an adult rather than a minor, since I could not have parents consent. This study offers a new contribution in the acknowledgement of how young adults are affected by risk factors that can potentially be prevented, the definition of misdemeanors, and how they contribute to a young adult's life. The procedure allowed for there to be a comparison of a perspective to allow input on the structure of the different methods used that were established for adolescents to help them make better life-making decisions, for them to be aware of the consequences of their actions. Any studies that are conducted later on can use this data to confirm their hypothesis on a child's behavior and the process that a child will go through after committing a misdemeanor. Parents who ask questions about their child can look at risk factors that can indicate their child's mental and emotional state. The various displays and methods allows for improvement according to the individual's specific needs. The term juvenile delinquency can seem like a simple term for a troubled kid who acts out for no apparent reason, instead of being a young teen who feels misunderstood by their loved ones and in society.
All right, Ms. Cutler. Okay. How did your initial exploration of the scholarly conversation lead you to your final research question?
My conversation was to find out which potential risk factors I needed to understand in order to really look into the past of these juveniles. Instead of looking into the recovery process, this allowed me to address this gap in the research of juveniles, and I wanted to understand exactly what led up to them making these decisions.
Thank you.
How did the limitations of your method or data influence your new understanding?
My limitation was that I didn't have access to these one-on-one interviews with young juveniles because I didn't have consent, so that limited how much research I could gather, so I gathered research from a counselor instead of a young adult.
And if you could revisit your research process, what would you do differently and why?
Kind of like I was saying, I would have wanted to do these programs and maybe look at them and see how these young adults interact with the employees and how they would work efficiently. I would have wanted to do these interviews with these young adults.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy.